My daughter gave me a watch for my birthday. I brought it to my friend's place. A close friend, a former cop, looked at it, and her face went pale. She whispered, "You need to call the police." I didn't react. I stayed calm and walked away. But 3 days later, everything had changed so completely that my blood ran cold. Welcome, please like and subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're tuning in from. A quick note, while this story contains dramatized elements for awareness and learning, any similarity to actual names or places is coincidental. The lessons, however, are very real. I turned 60 on a Tuesday in November, and the only person who remembered was the one trying to erase me. The package arrived that morning while I was drinking coffee alone in my kitchen. No cards in the mail, no phone calls, just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my own breathing. Inside the box, a fitness watch with a rose gold band, sleek and expensive looking. The kind of thing I'd seen younger women wearing at the grocery store, tracking their steps, checking their heart rates. Technology I didn't quite understand. The note was simple. Mom thought this might make your days a little easier. Track your steps, your heart rate. Stay healthy. I need you around. Happy birthday. Love, Heather. I held the watch in my hands and cried. It had been months since I'd heard from her. Not since Russell's 10-year memorial back in February, when she'd driven up from Charlotte for the weekend and left Sunday morning without saying goodbye. Just a text later. "Sorry, Mom. Had to get back early. Work stuff." I'd stopped asking what was wrong, stopped asking why she never called, stopped wondering if I'd done something to push her away. But she'd remembered my birthday. After all these months of silence, my daughter had remembered. I charged the watch that night, watching the small charging light pulse steady and patient on my nightstand. Read through the instruction manual, trying to make sense of the features. By morning, I'd figured out the basics. The screen showed my step count, my heart rate, my sleep patterns. Numbers that quantified my existence in ways I'd never considered before. Wednesday morning, I wore it to the grocery store. 42 steps from my front door to the car. My heart rate was 73. The little screen glowed with information about my body, my movement, my life. I found myself checking it throughout the day, walking extra laps around my house just to watch the numbers climb, feeling oddly accomplished when I hit 5,000 steps by dinner time. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Russell and I had celebrated 28 birthdays together before the cancer took him, and looked at the watch on my wrist. Tried to imagine Heather picking it out, standing in some store in Charlotte thinking about me, wanting me to be healthy, wanting me around. I need you around. Those words meant something, didn't they? I tried to remember the last time Heather and I had celebrated anything together. Maybe her 30th birthday 5 years ago, when I'd driven down to Charlotte and taken her to that steakhouse she loved. She'd seemed distracted that night, checking her phone constantly, talking about some guy she'd just started seeing, Derek something. I'd asked if it was serious, and she'd brushed me off, changed the subject. I pushed the memory away, focused on the present, on this gift, this bridge between us. Tomorrow I'd wear it to U.S. Bank, where I'd worked for 30 years before retiring. Show Paula and Alma. They'd been asking about Heather for months, worried about the silence between us. Now I'd have something to show them, proof that she still thought about me, that I still mattered. I set the watch on my nightstand that night, watching the small light pulse in the darkness. The Wednesday morning air carried that knife-sharp cold that comes before snow. I drove down East Colfax with the watch on my wrist, checking it at red lights. 42 steps from my front door to the car. My heart rate was 73. The little screen glowed with information I was just beginning to understand. U.S. Bank looked the same as it had when I'd worked there for 30 years. Same brick facade. Same glass doors I'd walked through 5 days a week until my retirement 2 years ago. Paula Simmons and Alma Briggs were on break in the back room. Paula looked up when I walked in, and her face broke into that rare smile she saved for people she actually liked. "Marilyn, what brings you by?" I held up my wrist. Birthday present from Heather. Paula's smile widened. She'd been asking about Heather for months, worried about the silence between us. "Well, it's about time that girl—" She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes locked on the watch. "Can I see that?" I unclasped it, handed it over. Paula turned it in her hand, slow and deliberate. Too slow, too careful. I watched something shift behind her eyes. Paula, what's wrong? She didn't answer, just kept examining the watch, her fingers running along the band, checking the weight. She'd been a cop in Denver for 25 years before retiring and taking the bank job. I'd seen that look before, the way she studied things, the way her mind worked through problems most people wouldn't notice. This weighs twice what it should, she said finally. Alma leaned in, curious. What do you mean? Paula held the watch up to the light. I had one of these. Similar model. This is way too heavy. She turned it over, examined the charging port. And this, she went very still. What? My voice came out higher than I intended. Paula, what is it? There's a chip in here that shouldn't be there. She looked up at me, and her expression made my stomach drop. Marilyn, this watch has been modified. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Someone's phone rang at a distant desk. Normal sounds in a suddenly abnormal moment. Modified how? I can't be sure without opening it up, but this chip... She pointed with her fingernail. This isn't standard, and the weight suggests there's more inside than there should be. My mouth felt dry. You think it's broken manufacturing defect? No. Paula's voice was gentle but firm. I think someone altered this watch on purpose. Alma's hand found my shoulder. Who gave this to you? My daughter. The words felt strange saying them out loud. Heather. For my birthday. Paula and Alma exchanged a look I couldn't read. Paula pulled a napkin from the table, wrote something down. A phone number. This is Detective Vincent Torres, District 3. Tell him I sent you. Tell him... She looked at the watch again. Tell him you need someone to look at this. Someone who knows electronics. You think Heather... I think you need to call. Paula pressed the napkin into my hand. Today, Marilyn. Don't wait. I looked down at the watch in Paula's palm. The rose gold band caught the fluorescent light. Beautiful and wrong. That's why you need to call, Paula said quietly. I called Detective Torres from the bank parking lot, Paula's napkin trembling in my hand. He answered on the second ring. Torres. Detective, my name is Marilyn Blackwell. Paula Simmons gave me your number. She looked at my fitness watch and said it's been modified. Silence. Then, modified how? She said there's a chip that shouldn't be there. Extra weight. She's former Denver PD. Paula Simmons. His voice sharpened. Where are you right now? U.S. Bank on East Colfax. Don't touch that watch anymore. Don't put it back on. Bring it to District 3 immediately. I need to see this in person. The drive took 12 minutes. I counted every red light. Torres met me in the lobby, late 40s gray, threading his temples eyes that had seen too much to be surprised by anything. He shook my hand without smiling. Ms. Blackwell, let's take a look. He led me through a maze of desks to a small office in back. Malcolm Porter was already there, hunched over a workbench, crowded with tools and magnifying equipment. Younger than Torres, maybe 35, with the focused intensity of someone who understood machines better than people. I handed over the watch. My wrist felt naked without it. Malcolm worked in silence for 3 minutes. Torres stood beside me, arms crossed, watching. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Someone's radio crackled in the distance. Then Malcolm looked up at Torres, and something passed between them that made my stomach drop. Your friend was right, Malcolm said. This watch has been heavily modified. He turned it so I could see its opened interior. Tiny components I didn't recognize. Wires that shouldn't have been there. This microphone, he pointed with tweezers. It's not standard. Neither is this GPS chip, and this is a cellular transmitter. He indicated a component no bigger than my pinky nail. Someone installed commercial-grade surveillance equipment inside this watch. The words felt foreign, clinical. Someone can hear me. Not just here, Torres said. They can track your location in real time, 24/7, and the microphone has a 30-foot range. Picks up everything. Conversations, phone calls, television, everything. I thought about the past 2 days, wearing it to the grocery store, to the bank, talking to Paula and Alma. Every word captured. "Who gave this to you?" Torres asked. "My daughter." My voice sounded hollow. "Heather, for my 60th birthday." Torres let me sit with that for a moment. "Then, does your daughter have any reason to monitor you? Financial issues, inheritance concerns?" "She's my only child. Everything I have goes to her anyway when I'm gone. She knows that." "Sometimes," Torres said quietly, "it's not about waiting." Malcolm had been typing on his laptop. "The software's sophisticated. Whoever installed this surveillance equipment knew what they were doing. This isn't amateur work." Torres leaned forward. "Ms. Blackwell, here's what I'm proposing. You go home. You wear the watch. You act normal. If your daughter calls, talk to her. Live your life. But we'll be monitoring everything transmitted from that device. If someone's planning something, they'll talk about it eventually. People always do." "You want me to be bait. I want you to help us build a case. Right now, that watch is our best chance." I looked at the device on Malcolm's workbench, rose gold and malevolent, the gift my daughter gave me for my 60th birthday. "Okay," I said. Torres walked me out. At the station door, he handed me his card. "Call me if anything feels wrong, anything at all. And Ms. Blackwell, be careful what you say around that watch. Assume someone's always listening." I drove home with the watch in my purse, feeling its weight like a stone. Tomorrow I'd put it back on my wrist. Tomorrow I'd pretend my daughter still loved me. Tonight I'd try to remember when that stopped being true. Thursday morning I stood in front of my bathroom mirror with the watch in my hand. The rose gold band caught the light, beautiful and venomous. My hands shook as I fastened it around my wrist. Torres had been clear act normal talk, naturally let them think nothing had changed. But wearing a watch, contains surveillance equipment. That's like inviting a stranger into every room and pretending they're not there. I made coffee, walked to the kitchen window. Then I started talking to myself. "I've been thinking about that rental property," I said to the empty kitchen. "The one Susan and I bought in 2008. Market's strong right now. Might be time to sell." My voice sounded strange, performative. I poured my coffee. Tried again. "Should probably update my will, too. Estate planning, I'm at that age." The watch sat quiet on my wrist, its screen dark. Nothing to show someone was listening on the other end. I spent the morning doing ordinary things. Read the newspaper, watered the plants, did laundry. And every so often I'd speak into the silence. "Think I'll call the lawyer next week. Wonder what that house would appraise for now." Each sentence felt like throwing stones into a dark well, waiting to hear if anything echoed back. By noon, I'd almost convinced myself Torres was wrong. Maybe Heather had bought the watch secondhand, never knowing what was inside. Maybe this was all some elaborate misunderstanding. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Heather Mom. I've been thinking, "Are you planning to sell the rental property? We should probably talk about estate planning, too. Just want to make sure everything's in order." I stared at the screen. Those exact words. The rental property, estate planning. The same phrases I'd spoken 3 hours earlier alone in my kitchen. My hands went cold. Heather's message was casual, conversational, like the idea had just occurred to her, like she was being thoughtful. But I'd given her those thoughts, fed them directly to whoever was monitoring the device on my wrist. The coffee in my cup had gone cold. Outside, a neighbor's dog barked. Normal sounds, normal day. Except my daughter was listening to everything I said. I typed back with trembling fingers. "That's funny. I was just thinking the same thing. Let's talk soon." Her response came immediately. "Great. How about I drive up this weekend? We can go through everything together." She wanted to come here, to my house, where we'd sit across from each other and she'd pretend to care while the watch transmitted every word. I called Torres from the landline in my bedroom door, closed watch, left in the kitchen. "She took the bait," I said when he answered. "Good. That's good, Ms. Blackwell. Keep doing exactly what we're doing. When she visits, act natural. We need to see what she does when she thinks you don't know." After we hung up, I stood in my bedroom, looking at the photos on my dresser. Heather at 7, gap-toothed smile, learning to ride her bike. Heather at graduation. Heather at Russell's funeral, holding my hand. When did that daughter become someone who would do this? I went back to the kitchen, put the watch on my wrist, started making lunch like nothing had changed, because that's what I had to do now. Pretend I didn't know my daughter was listening. Pretend I still trusted her. Pretend my heart wasn't breaking with every word I spoke while wearing the device she gave me. The doorbell rang at 6 o'clock Friday evening. Through the peephole, I saw Heather standing on my porch with takeout bags from that BBQ place on Broadway, smiling like this was the most natural thing in the world. I opened the door, put on my own smile. Heather. What a surprise. She leaned in for a hug. I had business up this way. Thought I'd bring dinner. Business in Denver. Heather worked in commercial real estate in Charlotte. She'd never mentioned clients here, never had business in this city in the 5 years since Russell died. But I smiled wider, took the bags, let her in. The watch sat heavy on my wrist as Heather set the table, pulled out containers of brisket and coleslaw, poured sweet tea, like she still lived here, like she hadn't disappeared for months. We ate, made small talk. She asked about the house, the neighbors, the weather. Then the conversation shifted. How have you been feeling? Mom sleeping okay? Fine, same as always. And your memory? She said it casually, reaching for more coleslaw. You seemed a little confused on the phone last week. I set down my fork. I wasn't confused. You forgot to call me back on Tuesday. Remember you said you would. I hadn't promised to call her back. We hadn't even spoken Tuesday. But Heather's face showed nothing but gentle concern. I don't think I said that. You did, Mom. She reached across the table, patted my hand. It's okay. At your age, it's normal to forget little things. At your age. Like 60 was ancient. Like I was someone who needed monitoring. There's nothing wrong with my memory, Heather. I know. I just worry, all alone in this big house. What if something happened? What if you fell and there was no one here to help? She was good. Her voice dripped with concern. Her eyes were wide and sincere. If I didn't know about the watch, about the surveillance equipment hidden inside, I might have believed her. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. Of course you are. That patronizing smile again. But thinking ahead about healthcare, about finances, that's just smart planning. At your age. There it was again. You mentioned the rental property. She continued. The one you and Dad bought. Have you thought about what you want to do with it? The rental property. The exact phrase I'd spoken into the empty kitchen Thursday morning. And your will. When's the last time you updated it? You want to make sure everything's in order, just in case. Just in case of what? Just in case I died, or just in case she needed to take control. I sipped my tea, kept my face neutral. I've been thinking about that, actually. Good. That's so good, Mom. She squeezed my hand. I can help. We can go through everything together. Power of attorney, healthcare directives, all of it. I want to make sure you're protected. Protected? That's very thoughtful of you. You're my mom. Of course I want to take care of you. She stood, started clearing dishes. Especially now with your memory issues. I don't have memory issues. Mom. She turned and her expression was pure pity. You just forgot our conversation on Tuesday. It's okay to admit when we need help. After she left another hug, another promise to call soon, I stood in my kitchen trying to remember if we'd actually spoken on Tuesday. Tried to sort through what was real and what she'd planted in my mind. I checked the front door lock, turned the deadbolt, tested the handle. Then I checked it again, because I couldn't remember if I'd already locked it. Then a third time, because surely I had, but I couldn't be certain. I stood in my hallway, hand on the doorknob, and felt something crack inside me. My daughter was making me doubt my own mind. Saturday morning, my phone rang. Torres apologized for calling on the weekend. Ms. Blackwell, we got a warrant for Heather's email account. Found something you need to see. My stomach dropped. What is it? I'm sending screenshots to your phone now. Stay on the line while you look at them. My phone buzzed. I opened the message with shaking hands. The first image showed an email draft. Subject line, guardianship petition. Materials needed. I scrolled. The next screenshot showed a document titled, Petition for Appointment of Guardian and Conservator, Marilyn Blackwell. My name. In legal documents I'd never seen. never signed. Miss Blackwell, you still there? I'm here. My voice sounded far away. Keep looking, there's more. The next images showed notes. Handwritten margins on printed pages. Mother forgets appointments, document dates. Confused about finances, get bank statements. Mentioned selling rental property. Document declining cognition. Everything I'd said into that watch. Every word she'd fed back to me Friday night twisted into evidence of incompetence. Another screenshot. An email to someone named Derek Nash. Building the case. She's giving me everything I need. Guardianship petition ready to file next month. Once I have control, we move on the insurance. The insurance. My life insurance policy. $400,000 with Heather as beneficiary. Ms. Blackwell, this isn't just about money. Torres's voice was gentle. Guardianship means she'd control every aspect of your life. Where you live, what medical care you receive, whether you can leave your house. She'd have legal authority to make all your decisions. She's trying to make me disappear. Not physically, but legally, yes. She's trying to have you declared incompetent. And once that happens, you'd have almost no rights, no way to fight back. I looked at the screenshots again, saw my daughter's words, her plan, her manipulation of every conversation, every visit, every moment we'd shared, all of it building toward this. Not theft, erasure. There's one more thing, Torres said. This Derek Nash she's emailing, he's got priors. 2 convictions for elder fraud in North Carolina. Scammed a 72-year-old woman out of her retirement accounts in 2022. Did 18 months. Laura and Heather's with him. Has been for about 8 months, according to her social media. Right around the time she stopped calling you. Right around the time I became a target instead of a mother. I set the phone down on my coffee table, put it on speaker because my hands couldn't hold it steady anymore. What do? You keep wearing that watch, you keep acting normal, and we keep gathering evidence, because right now we can prove surveillance. But if we wait, if we let this play out a little more, we can prove conspiracy, fraud, maybe more. After we hung up, I sat on my couch staring at nothing, trying to process that my daughter, my only child, had spent months building a legal case to strip away my autonomy, my identity, my right to exist as myself. And then without warning, a memory surfaced. Heather at 7 years old, my bedroom, morning light streaming through the curtains. Her first day of school, and she was terrified. I'd been braiding her hair, my fingers working through the tangles, and she'd looked up at me with those wide eyes. Promise you'll be there when school ends, Mom. Promise. I'd kissed the top of her head, made the promise, kept it. I'd always kept my promises to her. When had she stopped keeping hers to me? I wasn't in my living room anymore. I was standing in Heather's childhood bedroom 25 years ago, morning light streaming through curtains with yellow daisies. She sat on her bed in a brand new uniform navy jumper, white blouse, knee socks sliding down her legs. 7 years old. First day of school. I was braiding her hair. Long, careful strokes with the brush. What if the other kids don't like me? They're going to love you, sweetheart. I wove her hair into a French braid, tied it with a pink ribbon dotted with white polka dots. What if I can't find my classroom? Your teacher will help you. But her chin was trembling. What if you forget to pick me up? I set down the brush, knelt so we were eye to eye. Heather Elizabeth Blackwell, I will be there when school ends. I will always be there. Always. I could never forget you. She threw her arms around my neck. I trust you, Mom. You won't let anything bad happen. Never. Russell appeared in the doorway, camera ready. He took a picture of me kneeling, Heather's arms around my neck, pink ribbon bright in her hair. Perfect trust. Ready, princess. Heather nodded, took my hand. At school, I walked her to the classroom door, met her teacher, stayed until she found her desk. You can go now, Mom. I'll be okay. I'll be right here at 3 o'clock, right here, I promise. I trust you. That afternoon, I arrived at 2:45, stood in the exact spot. When the bell rang, Heather's face lit up when she saw me. She ran to me, threw herself into my arms. You came. I promised, didn't I? You always keep your promises, Mom. Always. I blinked. The memory dissolved. I was back in my living room, cold and quiet. Phone on the table, Torres's screenshots glowing. On the mantel sat that photograph. Heather at 7, gap-toothed, smile, pink ribbon arms around my neck. I trust you, Mom. She'd trusted me completely, the way children trust their parents to keep them safe, to never break promises. I'd kept every promise I made to her, and now she was trying to erase me. The daughter who'd once gripped my hand like I was the only solid thing in the world was now working to strip away my freedom, my identity, my life. 25 years ago, I'd promised to protect her, and I was still keeping that promise, even when she didn't deserve it, even when it meant stopping her from destroying me, even when it broke my heart. I picked up my phone, texted Torres, "I'm ready. Whatever you need me to do tomorrow." His response came immediately. "Thank you, Marilyn. We're going to stop this." I set the phone down, looked at the photo one more time. 7 years old, pink ribbon, gap-toothed smile. You always keep your promises, Mom. Yes, I did. Tomorrow I'd walk into that bank and face my daughter. Tomorrow I'd show her the evidence of her betrayal. Tomorrow I'd save her life by exposing her crimes. Because that's what mothers do. We keep our promises, even when keeping them destroys us. Monday morning at 9, my phone rang. My attorney's voice was tight with concern. "Marilyn, I need to tell you something. I've been doing that routine review of your policies, the one you requested after Detective Torres confirmed the surveillance." My attorney had been reviewing everything since Friday. Standard procedure when someone discovers they're being monitored. The insurance company's records flagged a discrepancy over the weekend. I sat down. "What kind of discrepancy?" "The beneficiary on your life insurance policy was changed 4 months ago, from your estate to Heather Blackwell as direct beneficiary." My hands went cold. "The policy is worth $400,000, and there's a notarized form on file with your signature authorizing the change." I stood up, walked to the window. "I never signed anything." A long pause. "I know, Marilyn, that's why I'm calling. This is forgery, identity theft. I have an obligation to report this." "How did they—" "The form was submitted by mail, notarized by someone in Charlotte, North Carolina. Your signature is close, very close, but when I requested the full file for review, the inconsistencies were obvious." 4 months ago, right around the time Heather stopped calling, right around the time she met Trent Holloway. "This isn't just about the guardianship," my attorney continued. "This is active fraud. If something happened to you, they'd collect $400,000. The room tilted. I gripped the windowsill. "Marilyn, this isn't planning. This isn't preparation. This is a crime in progress. They've already committed fraud. And given the guardianship petition, given the surveillance—" She didn't finish. Didn't need to. They were positioning themselves to make sure I died, or make it look like I died, or have me declared incompetent so Heather could control the policy as my guardian. What do I do? I'm calling the insurance company's fraud department today, and you need to tell Detective Torres immediately. This changes everything. After we hung up, I stood at the window for a long time. $400,000. Trent Holloway's gambling debts. Heather's emails. Once I have control, we move on the insurance. They weren't waiting for me to die naturally. They were creating the conditions. The guardianship would give Heather legal authority. The forged beneficiary change would give her the money. The surveillance equipment would let her monitor everything, stay one step ahead, make sure I couldn't fight back. A perfect plan. Except they didn't know I'd discovered the watch. Didn't know Torres was monitoring them. Didn't know their perfect crime was being documented in real time. I picked up my phone. Called Torres. He answered immediately. "Ms. Blackwell, it's not just surveillance." My voice shook, but held steady. "It's not just the guardianship plan. They forged my signature on my life insurance policy 4 months ago. Changed the beneficiary to Heather. $400,000. Silence. Then, that's identity theft. That's fraud. And combined with everything else, It's conspiracy. Yes, and possibly more. A pause. Ms. Blackwell, I need you to be very careful now. If they've already committed fraud, if they're this far along, they might accelerate their timeline if they feel threatened. You think they'd... I think you need to be careful. Very careful. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't eat or drink anything Heather gives you, and keep wearing that watch. We're close to having enough. After I hung up, I looked at the photo on my mantle. Heather at 7, pink ribbon, gap-toothed smile. I trust you, Mom. $400,000. A forged signature. A plan to erase me. And somewhere in Charlotte, my daughter was waiting. The watch sat heavy on my wrist. Heather didn't know I was watching back now. Monday afternoon at 2, I sat across from Torres at District 3. He turned his computer screen toward me. A photograph appeared. A man with dark hair, early 30s, handsome in a polished, calculated way. Trent Holloway, Torres said. Your daughter's boyfriend. I stared at the face. I've never met him. Heather mentioned someone once, but she wouldn't. Torres clicked through screens. Criminal record, Raleigh, North Carolina, 2019. Financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. His then-girlfriend's grandfather. 78 years old, early-stage dementia. Holloway drained his accounts over 6 months. My stomach twisted. Did 18 months. Got out in 2021. Torres pulled up another document. Here's where it gets interesting. He turned the screen fully toward me. Marriage certificate. State of Utah. 5 years ago. Sarah Holloway, Torres said. 2 children. Ages 3 and 5. I couldn't speak. Trent Holloway is married, Ms. Blackwell. Has been for 5 years. His wife lives in Provo. She thinks he travels for work. Sales consulting. The room felt too small. Heather doesn't know. We don't think so. But here's what we do know. Torres pulled up more files. The previous case, the grandfather charges were dropped after the victim died. Heart attack. Medical examiner ruled it natural causes, but the timing was convenient. Right before trial. He killed him. Never proven, but Holloway has a pattern. Find a woman with access to money, build a relationship, identify a vulnerable target, usually an elderly parent, execute the con, and if things get complicated, the target has unfortunate medical events. And Heather. We think he found her 8 months ago, right around the time she started having financial problems. What kind of problems? Failed business venture, small boutique in Charlotte. She took out loans, maxed credit cards, lost everything. She was drowning in debt when Holloway showed up. Torres pulled up bank records. Heather owes $30,000. Credit cards, business loans, personal loans. And Holloway, he's got gambling debts. Offshore accounts, sports betting. He owes people who don't accept late payments. $400,000 would solve both their problems. He's the architect of this, Torres said. The guardianship petition, the forged insurance documents, the surveillance watch. This is his playbook. We've seen it before in the 2019 case. Same pattern, same methods. But Heather, she's the one who sent the watch. She's doing exactly what he's telling her to do. I'm not saying she's innocent, Ms. Blackwell. She's made choices, bad ones. But Holloway, he's the professional. And I don't think your daughter knows what she's really gotten into. I looked at Trent Holloway's photograph, tried to imagine Heather with him. Does Heather know he's married? Torres shook his head. I doubt it. His wife doesn't even know he's in Colorado. As far as Sarah Holloway is concerned, her husband is in Denver for a 3-week sales conference. So Heather thinks he loves her. She thinks they're partners. She thinks they're building a future together. Torres closed the files. She's being used, Ms. Blackwell, just like you. I sat back in my chair. My daughter wasn't just a criminal. She was a victim, too. Manipulated by someone who'd done this before. Someone who knew exactly how to exploit desperation. Someone who'd kill to protect his con. What do we do? I asked. Torres met my eyes. We keep gathering evidence, and we move fast. Because if Holloway thinks this operation is compromised, he'll either run or accelerate. Or kill. Yes. Tuesday evening at 6, I sat in my living room wearing the watch, pretending to read. Then Heather's phone rang. Not my phone, hers. I heard it through the watch, the ringtone, then her voice answering on speaker. A man's voice, sharp, impatient. Did she sign yet? Heather's voice was tight. Not yet, Trent. She's being careful. My blood went cold. This was him, Trent Holloway. We're running out of time. My creditors aren't waiting. I'm trying. Try harder. You owe me $30,000. Your failed business, your credit cards, not my problem. Heather started crying. Trent, please, she's my mother. I hate doing this. No sympathy. You should have thought about that before you came to me for money. Besides, what's she gonna do with it? She's 60, alone, just sitting on all that money. What if she finds out? Trent laughed. She won't. Old people don't understand technology. That's why this works. I gripped the armrest, forced myself to stay quiet. Keep pushing the guardianship. Once you have conservatorship, we access everything. House, pension, insurance. Clear your debt, split the rest, you're free. His voice softened, manipulative. That's what you want, isn't it? Heather's voice was small. Yes. Then get it done. Take her to the bank, get her to sign something. Anything. A pause. Then Heather, barely audible. What if she won't? Then we move to plan B. What's plan B? You don't need to worry about that. Just do your job. I'll handle the rest. The call ended. I sat frozen, the watch heavy on my wrist. Heather was being manipulated, threatened, pressured by a man who had no love for her. But she was still doing it, still planning. She's my mother. I hate doing this, but not enough to stop. Plan B. What was Plan B? What did Trent Holloway do when victims wouldn't cooperate? I thought about the grandfather in Raleigh, the heart attack before trial, natural causes. I called Torres. Ms. Blackwell. I just heard them. Heather and Holloway, the watch picked it up. What did they say? I told him everything. The threats, the debts, the timeline pressure. Plan B. When I finished, Torres was quiet. Pack a bag. Stay with a friend tonight. Someone Heather doesn't know. You think... I think Holloway is feeling pressure. Pressured men do desperate things. Don't be alone tonight. After we hung up, I stared at the watch. My daughter was being threatened, manipulated, used. But she was still trying to erase me, and I'd just recorded proof. I packed a bag, drove to Paula's house. Paula opened her door, saw my face, pulled me inside. How long? Just tonight. Torres moves tomorrow. She nodded. Guest room's ready. That night, lying in Paula's guest bed, I thought about the call, about Heather crying, about Trent's cold voice, about Plan B, about how close I'd come to being another victim who died of natural causes. Tomorrow it would end, one way or another. I touched the watch on my wrist one last time before taking it off for the night. Tomorrow I'd wear it to the bank. Tomorrow Heather would walk into Torres's trap. Tomorrow we'd find out what Plan B really was. And tomorrow I'd discover if saving my daughter meant destroying her, or if she'd already destroyed herself. I closed my eyes, tried to sleep, failed, because tomorrow everything would change, and I wasn't sure either of us would survive it. Wednesday morning at 8, my phone rang. Torres's voice was more urgent than I'd ever heard it. Ms. Blackwell, your daughter is in immediate danger. I sat up. What? We got a warrant for Trent Holloway's devices last night. I need to explain this first. We'd been requesting this warrant based on his prior record, but the judge was hesitant. Not enough immediate threat, he said. The phone call you recorded changed that. Immediate danger to a potential victim, I told him. The warrant came through in hours. My heart was pounding. What did you find? We executed it last night. Malcolm went through Holloway's laptop, his phone, everything. Torres paused. Ms. Blackwell, the search history alone is damning. How to stage an accident. Untraceable poisons, making death look natural. The room tilted. And emails, sent to an encrypted address we're still trying to trace. One says, once we get the money, the daughter is a liability. I couldn't breathe. Another one. She's stupid. She'll take the fall if anything goes wrong. If not, she's disposable. He's going to kill her. My voice came out as a whisper. He's planning to, yes. Probably after she gets conservatorship and transfers the assets. She's a witness. She knows everything. And in Holloway's mind, she's expendable. I thought about Heather on the phone Tuesday night. She's my mother. I hate doing this. Crying, manipulated, threatened. Being used by a man who was planning to murder her. Does she know? We don't think so. The emails suggest he's keeping this part of the plan from her. She thinks they're partners. She thinks once they get the money, they'll be together. But he's married. She doesn't know that either. Torres's voice was grim. Ms. Blackwell, your daughter has made terrible choices. She's committed crimes, but she's also a victim here, and if we don't move fast, she's going to be a dead victim. I stood up, paced to the window. What do we do? We're arranging a meeting at the bank tomorrow, First Bank downtown on 17th Street. We're going to have Heather believe it's a routine appointment about your account, something she's been pushing for. And we're going to have Holloway there too. Tell him Heather needs backup, needs support. You're going to arrest them. We're going to confront them, show them what we have. Give Heather a chance to cooperate before this goes any further. And we're going to make sure Holloway knows we're watching him, that if anything happens to Heather, we know exactly who's responsible. Will she cooperate? I don't know. But when she sees the emails, when she understands that Holloway was planning to kill her, maybe she'll realize she's been played. Would after Torres explained the plan, after he told me what time to arrive at the bank, after he assured me there would be plainclothes officers in the building, I hung up and sat in silence. My daughter was trying to steal my life, and the man she loved was planning to end hers. Tomorrow everything would come to a head. Tomorrow Heather would learn the truth about Trent. Tomorrow I'd face them both. And somehow, despite everything she'd done to me, I had to try to save her, because she was still my daughter. And I'd promised 25 years ago in a bedroom filled with morning light that I'd always protect her, even when she didn't deserve it, even when she'd betrayed me, even now. Wednesday night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Sleep was impossible. My daughter had betrayed me, tried to steal everything I had, my freedom, my identity, my life. But my daughter was also walking into a death trap. I got up, walked to the mantel, looked at the photograph of Heather at 7, pink ribbon in her hair, gap-toothed smile. I trust you, Mom. She'd tried to erase me, tried to have me declared incompetent, forged my signature, monitored my every word, gaslit me until I questioned my own mind. But she was still my daughter, and Trent Holloway was planning to kill her. I heard Russell's voice in my memory. The night before he died, morphine making his words soft but clear. Promise me you'll protect her. Always. No matter what. I'd promised. Even now. Even after everything. Even when she didn't deserve it. Torres had been clear. Don't warn her. Don't tip her off. We need them both at the bank. We need them to think everything is going according to plan, but I had to get her there. Had to make her believe I was surrendering. I picked up my phone, looked at the time. 11 p.m. Opened a text to Heather. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Once I sent this, there was no going back. Tomorrow everything would explode. Tomorrow Heather would learn what Trent really was. Tomorrow she'd realize her mother had been watching all along. I typed, Heather, sweetie. I've been thinking about those papers you mentioned. Let's meet at the bank tomorrow morning to go over everything. I think you're right. I do need help managing things. My finger hovered over send. This was the lie that would save her life. The bait that would bring her into Torres's trap. The final betrayal that was actually protection. I pressed send. 3 dots appeared immediately. She was awake, waiting, hoping. The response came fast. Really, Mom? That's amazing. I'll set everything up. 10 a.m. work for you. I love you so much. 2 exclamation points. A heart emoji. She thought she'd won. Thought I'd surrendered. Thought tomorrow she'd walk into that bank and I'd sign away my rights, my assets, my autonomy. She had no idea what was waiting for her. I set my phone down, looked at the photo again. Promise you'll be there when school ends, Mom. Promise you won't forget me. I'll always be there. Always, sweetheart. I could never forget you. 25 years later, I was still keeping that promise, still protecting her, even when protection looked like confrontation, even when saving her meant exposing her crimes, even when loving her meant letting her face consequences. Tomorrow, Heather would learn that Trent Holloway had a wife and 2 children, that he'd been planning to kill her, that every word of love he'd spoken was a lie designed to use her drain, her dispose of her. Tomorrow she'd learn that her mother, the woman she'd tried to erase, had been the one watching, gathering evidence, building a case, not just against her, but for her, because that's what mothers do. We protect our children, even from themselves. I went back to bed. Didn't sleep. Just lay there in the dark, counting the hours until dawn, wondering if Heather would ever forgive me for saving her life, wondering if I'd ever forgive her for trying to steal mine. Still here, comment 1 to let me know you're ready for what comes next. Fair warning, the story ahead includes dramatized elements created for educational and emotional impact. If you're not comfortable with that, this is your moment to close the video. But if you stay, you'll see how everything comes together tomorrow at the bank. Thursday morning at 10, I walked into First Bank on 17th Street in downtown Denver. The conference room looked like every conference room, beige walls, fluorescent lights, a long table. Torres and Susan Wolf, the bank's fraud investigator, were already seated. I sat down across from them. The watch was in my purse, still recording. At 10:05, Heather arrived. Smiling confident, carrying a leather folder, I recognized the one Russell had used for important documents. Mom, ready to get everything organized. Sit down, Heather. Something in my voice made her pause. She looked at Torres, then Susan. What's going on? Susan gestured to the empty chair. We have questions, Ms. Blackwell. Heather sat slowly. Questions about what? Torres slid documents across the table. Email printouts, screenshots. These emails from your account, draft petitions for guardianship and conservatorship. Heather's face flushed. I was just researching, in case Mom needed help. These phone calls to our fraud department, Susan interrupted. You made them without your mother's knowledge, asking about her accounts. I was gathering information. Mom's been confused lately. Interesting, Torres said. Because Ms. Blackwell says she never authorized you to contact anyone. Heather turned to me. Mom, tell them. You've been forgetting things. I said nothing, just looked at her. Susan pushed another document forward. This life insurance policy. Beneficiary changed to you 4 months ago. $400,000. Mom wanted that. Nope, I said quietly. I didn't. Heather's eyes widened. Mom, you did. Remember we talked. Torres placed the watch on the table between us. The rose gold band gleamed. And this, a surveillance device, hidden inside a birthday gift. Heather stared. That's just a fitness tracker. It contains a microphone, Torres said. GPS tracking, cellular transmission. We've been monitoring it for a week. Every conversation, every word your mother spoke, transmitted to your phone. I don't know what you're... Stop. I leaned forward. Stop lying. Stop trying to make me doubt myself. I know what you did. I've known for over a week. Her face crumpled. Mom, please. Where's Trent? She froze. What, Trent Holloway, your boyfriend? Where is he? He couldn't make it. He had what? Torres asked. A sales conference. Heather's confusion looked genuine. How do you know about Trent? Torres and Susan exchanged a look. Ms. Blackwell, Torres said carefully. There are things you need to know about Trent Holloway. Heather stood up. This is crazy, Mom, we should leave. Sit down. My voice was ice. She sat. Susan slid more papers forward. You forged your mother's signature on legal documents, insurance paperwork. That's identity theft. That's fraud. I didn't. Mom signed those. I never signed anything. I said. Heather was crying now. Real tears. "Mom, I'm sorry. I was desperate. The business failed. I owed so much money, and Trent said—" She stopped. "Trent said what?" Torres leaned forward. Heather wiped her eyes. "He said you had so much, that you didn't need it all, that I was your only family, so eventually it would all be mine anyway. He said we were just accelerating things. Accelerating." I repeated the word, tasted its poison. "He said once we had the guardianship, we could manage everything better, make sure you were taken care of. And the insurance, he said it was smart planning, making sure I was protected." "Protected from what?" Susan asked. Heather looked down. "He didn't say." Torres pulled out another folder. "Ms. Blackwell, we need to show you something about Trent Holloway, about who he really is." Heather looked up, mascara streaking her face. "What do you mean? Where did you think Trent was today?" Torres asked. "He's in Denver, for work. He travels for sales." "No," Torres said, "he doesn't." Heather broke. Not the way I expected, because she didn't know the worst part yet. "I didn't want to do this." Her voice cracked, tears streaming. "I owe $30,000. The business failed. Gambling debts. Trent said this was the only way." She reached across the table. I pulled back. "Mom, please. I was desperate. He manipulated me." Torres interrupted. "There's something else you need to know, Heather." He turned his tablet toward her. "Trent Holloway, also known as Derek Nash in Raleigh, Trevor Hall in Utah." He swiped to the next image, where he's married to Sarah Holloway, 2 children ages 3 and 5. Heather stared. "That's not possible." Torres swiped again. Marriage certificate. Family photos. A blonde woman with 2 children smiling next to the man Heather thought loved her. 5 years married, living a double life. His wife thinks he travels for sales. Heather's face went white. He said we'd get married, move to California, start over. Her voice broke. "He said he loved me." "He lied," Susan said quietly. "I watched my daughter realize she'd been nothing but a tool." Torres wasn't finished. "There's more." He opened a file on his laptop, turned it toward Heather. "From Trent Holloway's computer, seized last night." Torres scrolled. "Once we get the money, the daughter is a liability." Heather's breathing became shallow. "She's stupid. She'll take the fall. If not, she's disposable." Torres continued. "Search history. Untraceable poisons. How to stage an accident. Making death look natural." Silence except for Heather's ragged breathing. "Trent Holloway wasn't planning a future with you," Torres said gently. "He was planning to use you, then eliminate you. He was going to kill me." Heather couldn't believe it. "Yes," Susan confirmed. "You'd either go to prison for fraud or you'd have an accident. Either way, he'd disappear with the money." Heather looked at me, her face destroyed. "Mom, you saved my life." I nodded slowly. "Yes." She put her head in her hands and sobbed. Real broken sobs. "I'm so sorry. I was drowning. Everything falling apart. And Trent showed up and understood. He said you had so much, and I was your daughter, so it should be mine anyway. He made it sound reasonable." "You tried to steal my life," I said quietly. "I know," still crying. "But I didn't know about the surveillance. He said the watch was a gift idea. He ordered it, I just sent it." Torres pulled out another document. "He modified it before shipping to you, added the equipment, then forwarded it with instructions." Heather's face crumpled. "He planned everything, and I was too desperate to see it." "You were a tool," Susan said. "He exploited your desperation, your relationship with your mother. When he was done, you'd take the blame or you'd be dead." Heather looked at me, eyes pleading. "You saved me, even after everything." "You're still my daughter," I said. She broke completely, put her head on the table and sobbed like the 7-year-old afraid of her first day of school. Torres let her cry briefly. Then, "Ms. Blackwell, we need full cooperation. Tell us everything, where Holloway is, the timeline, every detail." Heather nodded without lifting her head. "I'll tell you everything. I'll testify. Whatever you need." She looked up at me, face destroyed. "Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at my daughter, at what was left of her. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. At 10:30, officers led Heather away in handcuffs. She didn't resist, went quietly, head down, still crying. Torres pulled me aside in the hallway. "We got him." "Trent." He nodded. "My team moved on his location while we were here, an apartment in Lakewood rented under a fake name. And they found him packing, duffel bags, cash, fake passport, heading for Mexico." My legs felt weak. "Did he fight?" "Worse. They found chemicals. Marilyn, he had poison. Actual poison. In his kitchen, labeled as cleaning supplies. Malcolm identified it immediately. He was really going to do it." I leaned against the wall. "He's in custody," Torres continued. "Conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, attempted murder. Enough to put him away for decades." I nodded, couldn't speak. "Go home, rest. We'll need a formal statement tomorrow, but for now it's over." I drove home. My hands shook the entire way. At 4 that afternoon, my phone rang. "Torres, there's something else you need to know." I sat down. "What now?" "Trent's wife showed up at the station an hour ago." "Sarah Holloway?" "Yes, drove from Utah. Someone mentioned the wife during questioning. Sarah heard, came straight here." "Does she know?" "Everything." Torres's voice was heavy. "She had no idea. Thought her husband was a sales consultant. She brought photos of their kids asking to see him." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That her husband's been living a double life. Running cons with a girlfriend. Planning murder." Silence. "She's still here. In an interview room. Not under arrest, she's not involved. But devastated doesn't cover it. She keeps saying, 'The kids keep asking when Daddy's coming home.'" My phone buzzed. A text from Torres. A photo. A blonde woman slumped in a chair, face buried in her hands. A female officer nearby. I stared at that photo. Sarah Holloway. Married to a monster she thought was a good man. Mother to 2 children who didn't know their father was a criminal. Another text. "She wants to apologize to you. I told her that was your choice." I looked at my phone. Sarah hadn't done anything wrong. She was a victim, too. 3 women. 3 families. 1 man's con. I texted back, "Tell her she doesn't need to apologize. She didn't know. Torres. She says the kids are 5 and 3. Stay-at-home mom. Doesn't know how she'll support them. Doesn't know what to tell them. I thought about Heather at 5. At 3. Before Russell died. Tell her I'm sorry," I typed. Torres. She says the same. I set my phone down. Heather was in custody. Would be charged with fraud, conspiracy, identity theft. Trent was in custody. Would spend decades in prison. And Sarah Holloway would drive back to Utah and explain to 2 small children why Daddy wasn't coming home. 3 families destroyed by 1 con. I looked at the photo on my mantle. Heather at 7, pink ribbon, gap-toothed smile. "I trust you, Mom." Tomorrow I'd give my statement. Start the legal process. Tonight I sat in my quiet house and thought about trust. How it can be given freely. How it can be weaponized. How we try to protect the people we love even when they don't deserve it. And how sometimes saving someone means letting them face the consequences of their choices. Heather was alive because I'd protected her, but she'd still have to pay for what she'd done. That was justice, and maybe eventually that would be mercy too. 3 months later in February, I sat in a Denver courtroom. Sentencing hearing. Both had pleaded guilty. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wooden benches, high ceilings. The seal of Colorado behind the judge's bench. Torres sat behind me. Paula had come too. Judge Patricia Morrison presided. Mid-50s gray hair, pulled back reading glasses. The people versus Heather Marie Blackwell and Trent James Holloway. I watched Heather stand, navy dress hair pulled back. She looked thin, older than her 34 years. Trent stood beside his attorney, orange jumpsuit, shackled. He didn't look at anyone. Judge Morrison read the charges. Heather fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Trent fraud, forgery, identity theft, conspiracy to commit murder. The trials move quickly, plea deals on both sides. Heather cooperated fully testimony against Trent. Trent, facing the poison found in his apartment, had no defense. 3 months from arrest to sentencing. Justice, when evidence is overwhelming, moves fast. 2 weeks ago, Stanley York, Heather's attorney, called me. "Ms. Blackwell, would you write a leniency letter for your daughter? The judge would consider it." "No. She's your only child. She made mistakes." I hung up. The restraining order was filed that day. 5 years, no contact. Judge Morrison adjusted her glasses. "Ms. Blackwell, you've pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, and identity theft. You cooperated with prosecution. Your attorney submitted character references and evidence of your victimization by Mr. Holloway." Heather nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." "However, you made choices. You sent surveillance equipment to your mother. You forged her signature. You participated willingly." "I know. I'm so sorry. The court sentences you to 2 years probation, $100,000 restitution, 500 hours community service. Felony fraud and forgery convictions will remain on your record." Heather nodded, crying quietly. Judge Morrison turned to Trent. "Mr. Holloway, extensive criminal history. You targeted a vulnerable woman through her daughter. You planned fraud and murder. The poison found in your possession leaves no doubt." Trent said nothing. 12 years federal prison, no parole for 8 years. Upon release, lifetime supervision. The gavel struck. Judge Morrison looked at me. "Ms. Blackwell, would you like to make a statement?" I stood slowly, looked at Heather for the first time since entering, her eyes pleading, desperate. The same look at 7 years old when she was afraid, but she wasn't 7 anymore. "She made her choices," I said quietly, "and now she has to live with them." I sat back down. Heather's sob echoed through the courtroom. Officers led Trent away first. Then Heather released pending probation. She looked back once, mouthed something. Maybe, "I'm sorry." Maybe, "I love you." I looked away. Torres walked me out. Paula followed. "You okay?" Torres asked. "No," I said, "but I will be. Justice served. Sentences fair. Heather would pay her debt. Trent behind bars for years. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. My daughter, my only child, gone. Not dead, but gone all the same. Outside February, wind cut through Denver streets. I pulled my coat tighter. "What now?" Paula asked. I thought about my empty house, the photo on the mantel, the watch locked in evidence somewhere. Now, I said, I figure out how to live again. We walked to Paula's car. She drove me home, didn't ask questions, just stayed while I made tea, sat with me while I stared at nothing. Before she left, she hugged me. "You did the right thing." Did I? Yes, she needed consequences, and you needed boundaries. After Paula left, I sat in my living room, looked at the photo, Heather at 7 pink ribbon, gap-toothed smile. I trust you, Mom. I'd kept my promise, protected her, even from herself. But protection doesn't mean rescue. Sometimes it means letting them fall and hoping they learn to stand back up. After that day, I changed everything, methodically, completely. Bank accounts closed, new accounts at a different bank, passwords all changed, email new address, phone new number. My will, a new attorney drafted it. Everything left to charities instead of Heather. The animal rescue where Russell volunteered, the children's hospital where Heather was born, the library where I used to read to her when she was small. Heather's name erased completely from all my documents. The restraining order was in effect. 5 years, no contact. I told myself this was protection. Really, it was survival. Paula came by one afternoon, brought coffee. We sat in comfortable silence. "You did the right thing, Marilyn." Did I? She's still my daughter. And you're still here, alive, free. That's what matters. I showed her the watch. I'd kept it after the trial, locked in a drawer. Reminder of what? Paula asked. That I survived. She squeezed my hand. You did more than survive. You fought back. After she left, I looked at the watch one more time. Rose gold band now scratched from forensics. Screen dark dead. I put it back in the drawer. Some reminders you keep. Not because you want to, but because forgetting feels dangerous. That evening I stood by the mantel. The photo was still there, Heather at 7, gap-toothed smile, pink ribbon. In the corner, crayon letters, "World's Best Mom." I didn't take it down. Didn't stare at it either. Just let it be there. A part of the past I couldn't change. People asked why I kept it. Torres, Paula, my attorney. Why keep a photo of someone who tried to destroy you? Because she wasn't always that person. Because at 7, she was innocent. Because that little girl really did love me, really did trust me. That little girl wasn't the woman who sent me surveillance equipment. But she grew into her. And maybe that was the hardest truth, that people change, that love isn't always enough, that sometimes the person you die for becomes the person you have to protect yourself from. I touched the frame once, then walked away. Spring came slowly to Denver. March brought snow, then warmth, then snow again. I started volunteering at the animal rescue, the one Russell loved, the one that would receive everything I had someday. It felt right. Caring for things that needed care, giving love where it could be received without betrayal. Paula invited me to dinner with her family. I went. Sat at her table, met her grandchildren, laughed. Driving home, I realized something. I was lonely, but I wasn't alone. There were people who cared. Paula, Torres, Alma, the volunteers at the rescue. A life could be built from that. Not the life I'd imagined. Not the one where my daughter visited on holidays where grandchildren called on weekends, but a life nonetheless. That evening I stood at my window, watched the sun set over Denver. My phone, the new one, sat silent on the table. Heather couldn't call even if she wanted to, and I didn't know if I'd answer if she could. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. Some trust once shattered stays broken, and that was okay, because I was still here, still standing, still alive, and that was enough. November, 1 year later. I turned 61. This time I wasn't alone. 7 in the morning, the doorbell rang. Paula stood on my porch with coffee and pastries. "Happy birthday, Marilyn." We sat in my living room, comfortable silence. "How are you really?" Paula asked. "Getting there. Some days are harder than others." "Do you ever think about every day? But thinking doesn't change anything." The mail arrived mid-morning. One letter among the bills. Return address, a correctional facility in Colorado. Heather's handwriting on the envelope. I stared at it for a long time. Paula watched me. "You don't have to open it." "I know." I carried the letter to the kitchen, held it over the sink, struck a match, watched it burn without reading a single word. The ash washed down the drain. Paula didn't ask why. She understood. That afternoon we drove to the animal rescue. I'd been volunteering 3 days a week, feeding, walking, sitting with the ones nobody wanted. Russell would have liked that. A new dog had arrived that morning. Lab mix, maybe 8 years old. Owner died, no family wanted him. I sat in his kennel for an hour, let him rest his head on my lap. "You'll find someone," I told him, "someone who'll keep you safe." He looked at me with trusting eyes. I knew that look. That evening, Paula asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Do you have any regrets?" I thought about it. Really thought. About what I did know. About who she became every day. "Do you think you'll ever—" Maybe. Someday. Years from now. When the wounds aren't so fresh. Maybe there could be something. A bridge back. I looked out the window at the Denver skyline. But not today. Paula nodded. She understood that too. After she left, I was alone again. But it felt different now. I locked the doors, not frantically like a year ago, just carefully, deliberately. Checked my bank statements, all correct, all mine. Looked at the photo on the mantel. Heather at 7. Gap-toothed smile. World's best mom in crayon. I didn't cry anymore when I looked at it. Didn't smile either, just acknowledged it was there. A memory of someone who used to be. In my bedroom, I charged my phone. The new one. Different number, different passwords. No fitness watch. I didn't trust them anymore. Regular headphones worked fine. I got into bed. Thought about the year that had passed. The trial, the restraining order, the changes, the boundaries, the letter I'd burned without reading. Heather had written. That meant something. Maybe regret. Maybe manipulation. I'd never know. And that was okay. Some questions don't need answers. Some bridges stay burned. Some trust, once broken, can't be rebuilt. But you can build other things. Friendships, routines, a life that's yours and no one else's. A life where you check the locks because you're careful, not because you're terrified. Where you trust cautiously, but you still trust. Where being alone isn't the same as being lonely. I turned off the light. Tomorrow I'd go back to the rescue. Sit with that old dog. Maybe he'd be adopted. Maybe not. Either way, I'd be there, showing up, surviving, living. And maybe years from now, there'd be forgiveness. Maybe years from now, there'd be reconciliation. But not today. Today I'd survived another year, and that was enough. If you're hearing my story today, learn from my mistakes. Don't wait until surveillance equipment arrives to set boundaries with your children. Don't sacrifice your safety for family harmony. God gave us instincts for a reason. When something feels wrong, listen. When family drama stories like mine start unfolding, seek help immediately. Talk to friends, call police, consult an attorney. Don't stay silent. I've heard so many grandma stories from other women. Women who gave children access to bank accounts. Women who signed power of attorney just in case. Women who woke up with nothing. These family drama stories follow the same pattern: isolation, manipulation, theft. Trust God, but verify everything. He wants us wise, not naive. Sometimes wolves in sheep's clothing are our own children. I share this among other grandma stories because elder financial abuse is real. Set clear financial boundaries. Keep separate accounts. Never give anyone complete control of your assets. Review bank statements. Check credit reports. These aren't paranoia. They're self-preservation. If you're caught between protecting yourself and protecting your child, remember you can't save someone determined to destroy you. Sometimes love means letting them face consequences. Too many family drama stories end with the parent losing everything. God has sustained me through this year. He gave me Paula Torres and community when I fell. He reminded me, survival is strength. To anyone reading grandma stories like mine and recognizing their situation, you're not alone. Speak up. Set boundaries. Protect yourself. Your life is worth defending, even from the people you love most. I appreciate you making it through. Drop a 2 in the comments if you've been here from start to finish. Quick note, this narrative includes dramatized elements for awareness and learning. If this doesn't resonate, feel free to explore other content. What would you do in my situation? Share your thoughts below. Your experience might help someone else. Subscribe and share if this resonated. Sometimes the most loving thing is speaking truth.